Hello, everyone. Happy day. Welcome. Just one quick announcement to start today. Don't forget to change your clocks this weekend. Just a personal note. It'll happen sometime. I guess it happens at 2 a.m. on Sunday. You can do it then if you're up, but you don't have to do it right then. But change your clocks this weekend. That's my own reminder as well. So here we go into where we're going to start for today. I've spent quite a lot of time thinking about the things that I include in this class and making connections that have been revolutionary for me. And today's class is one of those where I've found some connections that I feel are important. My intention as the person doing most of the talking in this case, I bring them to share with all of you, but as always, they are for your consideration. Choosing my story has been really powerful for me, and therefore I believe that it's powerful for everybody because it's something that has changed my life. And so, we're gonna, pardon me, my allergies today are horrible. We're going to talk today a lot about story. And so, as I just said, choosing my story has been powerful. And we're going to open with a story because stories are powerful. They can leave us feeling and questioning, pondering. And so today I start with this sort of story about having an open or closed hand. So this was a story told by an Israeli man. And while he was in the Israeli Defense Force, his commander took him to the beach one day. And the commander said, "Ilyav," he said, "pick up 2 handfuls of sand." And Ilyav did as he was told. "Keep one hand open and clench the other into a fist as tight as you can." And again, Ilyav did as he was told. The commander said, "Now open the clenched fist and compare how much sand you have in each hand. Is there more sand in the clenched hand or in the one that you held open?" Ilyav replied, the hand that's open has more sand. In trying to hold on to the sand, he actually squeezed it out. And so, thinking about what this could mean as a sort of teaching story for us, are we closed? Are we resistant? Are we shut down? Are we actually holding less than we could if we were open to other possibilities? It seems at times that the closed hand is the better option because it may be safer to protect us and what we hold dear. A closed hand is ready for battle. It's determined to destroy anything in its way. The closed fist hides behind fear and anger with the belief of, if I try hard enough, I can get what I want and protect myself from being hurt. And yet, the thing about a closed hand is that it's unable to receive any other gifts. It's unable to grab onto anything else. It's closed off from goodness that could be entering. So when my hands or my mind, my body are tightly closed, I'm usually more stressed, less grateful, and actually feel more alone. And so, on the contrary, an open hand is ready to receive. It's not controlling. It's able to hold those things of importance. An open hand knows its limits, not trying to stretch fingers wider as the sand would fall out. An open hand has the posture of surrendering, saying, I will do my part, and acknowledge I'm not fully in control. An open hand is open to the feelings of fear and pain as well as those of joy and peace and contentment. An open hand helps us to understand that we are not alone, that there are others around that will help and encourage me, and I can do the same for others. An open hand is a life of being fully present. So, what is the state of your hand? What's that sand that you are holding on to today? Maybe a belief system, beliefs about the world, beliefs about what's normal, assumptions that you bring, definition of normal. So, we're going to unpack this story as we move through our material today. So, we've talked about these stories. This is the third time that I have mentioned this in class about the stories that these people created to make sense of the world around them. When they experienced gaps in their understanding, they created stories. And yet those stories don't hold true any longer. The culture has shifted, and it can be I'm sure it was a messy process when this culture shifted. Those shifts require work and reflection and sometimes discomfort. So today's class is about our story. What is our story now and how is it playing out? Why is it our story? So we continue to be in this place. Last time I shared my hypothesis that there is separation from self, separation from each other, separation from Earth. And another word for that is ecocide. So we talked about the word decide, how to decide something, and it's to eliminate. That CIDE at the end of the word means to eliminate. Eliminating eco, which is the world around us, as well as what we are directly part of. And I want you to continue to hold the packback question that I offered on Monday, because this will continue to potentially shape your reflection on this. So what's coming up for you as your places of disconnect? And what about the connections of the world around? So today, I would like to present you with another hypothesis, another idea that I see and how it's playing out. So today's hypothesis is related to our story, our cultural story. And my hypothesis is this, that the story that our culture teaches us creates separation. So when I think back to the word, or when I think about the word hypothesis, I've used it a couple of times. I think back to the very beginning of this class when we were talking about the scientific method, the fact that we are all scientists, that we are all making observations, we are all questioning something. We're all making those hypotheses, those ideas about what could be happening, and then experimenting to see how those play out. Is our hypothesis true or is it not? And sometimes these experiments might take months, might take years. And so here we are. I am sharing my hypothesis with you today, that our story of the current culture that teaches us separation. I hold this lightly. I hold it with my palm open so that I can take in more information, so that I can play with the ideas that are wrestling around inside of me. And so when I state that our current culture teaches us and creates separation, what kind of culture am I talking about? And what is culture to begin with? So culture is all of this. The definition of culture is that it's the integrated pattern of human knowledge, beliefs, behaviors, and that these get passed on from one generation to the next. That's what I think of as culture. The characteristics of everyday existence. It could be diversions in our ways of living. It could be the people and place and time that all share particular characteristics. Could be the customary beliefs and social forms and material traits of a racial, religious, or social group. And so today, all of these things play into our culture. Our work schedule is part of our culture. Language, how we do medicines and medical treatments, religion, how we raise our kids, what food we choose, the art that we create, the celebrations that we enjoy, the jokes that we share, the manners that we use. All of these, if you think about or if you know about other cultures around the world, these are all have great variable around the world. So when we think about when I'm talking today, I'm talking specifically about the American culture. So I'd like to go back and look at an old story that has helped or that has shaped our culture. And so this is a blast from the past, a little history lesson that I'm sure that you got when you were somewhere in high school. I know I did, but I don't think that I understood the complexity of it or the importance of it at that time. So let's look at this. We're going to look first here. This is the Louisiana Purchase. So when I say we're going back, we're talking about 1803. Okay, so this is the Louisiana Purchase. Now, it was first claimed by the French. And so the French owned this big green property that we're looking at here. Now, when I say the French owned it, they came in and they claimed this piece of land and everything on it. It's interesting to think that there were actually millions of people that were actually living on the land already, and yet the French claimed it. So then what happened was Thomas Jefferson, the United States government, purchased this piece of land from the French then in 1803. And so then the United States owned this piece of land. A very, again, interesting sort of concept, considering that there were already people on that piece of property, so to speak. It's a big chunk of property, obviously, but so 1803, that happened. And then what came along was trying to figure out what to do with this property that the United States now owns. And so along came the idea of this quote: "God blessed them and said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." This is a picture of Abraham Lincoln. And so obviously this quote wasn't written then. This is from the Bible that was written by people thousands of years prior to this, of course. The quote being that this was what God declared. And so how it comes into play then, related to the Louisiana Purchase, is that the politics of the time used that quote to say that it was our duty to colonize the West. And so this piece of art represents the movement west back in the upper right corner, I believe that you can see the Mississippi River, and then you're watching and looking at the people that are moving across the land to settle it, keeping in mind that it was already settled. So, manifest destiny was a phrase that was coined by newspaper editor John O'Sullivan in 1845. So, we had owned the land for about 42 years as people tried to figure out what to do with it. And then it was decided by the politicians at the time that we were going to demand, have dominion over this property and spread democracy and capitalism across the entire North American continent. So James Polk was the president then, and he is the leader that's most associated with this manifest destiny. It's important to note that this is not just people moving west. That what happened with this movement, that this inflamed social tensions over slavery, which ultimately led to the Civil War, because the westward expansion of slavery was one of the most dynamic economic and social processes going on in this time in this country. So the westward expansion carried slavery down into the Southwest, into Mississippi, Alabama, and crossing the Mississippi River into Louisiana. And so they were declaring that without slavery, you could not have civilization. That's what they said. So the dark side of the manifest destiny revealed that the white man's belief that his settlement of the land and civilization of its native peoples was preordained. So we needed to civilize those natives, those millions of people that already lived on the land. These settlements that extended across the Western territories promised the American dream, freedom and independence, at least for white people, of a seemingly limitless land. And so it became this clash. The goal was that it was to spread capitalism across the nation, freedom for all. Well, not all, really. And so, who were the people that were here? It was these people. This is the map of the Indian tribes, the native tribes that were on this land at that time. These are the people that were appreciating the land. And so, can we really own the land? These native peoples were living within a different story. They believed that they belonged to the earth, that they were part of earth. So it seems odd now that some French explorers did some surveying. Well, they came to North America, they did some surveying, and then declared ownership of an enormous territory. And then it's equally disconcerting that the American settlers proceeded to disregard the feelings, rights, and lives of the people that already lived on that territory. What justification did the European Americans use for this outright genocide? There it is again, genocide. The elimination of this culture. There were some that were opposed to this movement. Grover Cleveland, Andrew Carnegie, Mark Twain, all opposed these ideas of manifest destiny, and it became a disputed philosophy. But popular culture ruled, popular politics ruled, and what happened happened. So our one story took over another story. The story that they saw all things as connected and celebrated those connections ultimately led to Native American boarding schools. It led to the genocide of this culture in a lot of ways. So there's the human knowledge and beliefs and behaviors depending on passing that information from generation to generation was ended for a lot of those native peoples that were living here. And so what I want to ask now for your groups to discuss is, how do you see the history and patterns of manifest destiny still alive and still present in our culture today? So I'd like you to take 3 minutes in your group to have this discussion. How do you still see the manifest destiny playing out as our story today? So, what about today? What's our story? So, I'd like to take you on this little journey. Imagine that there are extraterrestrials. They're cruising placidly through deep space, and suddenly they come upon planet Earth. And so the team's superior powers allow them to quietly land unnoticed in the United States and to blend in with the Earthlings. So, their first task is to observe Americans enacting their lives in a variety of settings. So, schools and homes and supermarkets and job sites, sporting events, prisons, churches. And in so doing, they soon noticed that Americans spend a lot of time working, receiving what they call money in return for their labor. The extraterrestrials note as well that they use money to acquire all manner of things: houses, cars, clothes, food, gadgets, furnishings, property, etc., etc. And so by tracking daily conversations, they deduce that the Americans believe their access to stuff seems to ensure their well being. So the extraterrestrials assume that work leads to money, leads to stuff, leads to well being. And they title that story economism. Because in the culture, it appears that the meaning and purpose of life is viewed particularly through economic activity, such as working, consuming, investing, inventing, manufacturing, buying, selling, and so forth. And so, as the extraterrestrials continue to investigate, they find that the central purpose of schools is to train young people to join the workforce, thereby ensuring that the economy thrives. They also discover that the primary role of government is to promote policies that ensure that business flourishes. As for planet Earth, it seems to be regarded primarily as a supply house for raw materials and as a depository for waste. The extraterrestrials continue on and visit other countries and discover that economism is a global phenomenon. And so it's at this point that Mission Control decides that they should figure out how well this story is working. Are people happy? Do their lives have significant meaning and purpose? Are they generous and caring toward each other? Is their home, planet Earth, becoming ever more healthy and vibrant and beautiful? And so the extraterrestrials investigate, surveying all available research archives and media outlets. And so it becomes evident, though, that the health and well-being of planet Earth is in decline. There's a lot going on: climate chaos, widespread species extinction, ocean acidification, freshwater contamination. And it seems as though there are massive inequalities in wealth distribution. The richest 1% of humans possess more wealth than the rest of humankind combined. Strife and violence are prevalent in many households and communities, and that things are stressed rather than harmonious. Economism is designed to care just about one thing: maximizing income. And so the extraterrestrials finished the report saying, if humans continue to declare their allegiance to the story of economism, their civilization will collapse in an apocalypse marked by unimaginable suffering. And so, economism. The definition of economism, it can be summarized as this: work, money, consumption, happiness. It's defined as a term that sometimes is used in critiques of capitalist economics to point to the social and psychic damage that occurs when all life's richness, wonder, and complexity is reduced to merely economic dimensions. I looked up the word critique because I didn't know if it was negative, always negative, and it's not negative. So it's not always a bad thing to critique. It goes back to that whole idea of questioning everything. It's a detailed analysis and assessment. It's an evaluation in an analytical way. And so, with that idea of the extraterrestrials, yes, it might be a silly story, but looking at our story, the cultural story of the planet today, what is the purpose of school, the purpose of government? the purpose of Earth. Why is it that you go to college? Why is it that I went to college? What is our story today? And so I'd like to give you a moment first with this. On your notes page for today, what does it mean to be a success for you? I'm not saying for anybody else, I'm not saying for a culture. Right now, in your mind, what is your story of success? Take a moment and fill that out 3 times on your paper. So now, if you have those, I'd like you to spend some time with this question combined with your answers in your Zoom groups. How do you see the story of economism, connected to your answers or not? How is the story connected or not? I'm not making any presumptions at this point. So take 4 minutes in your group to discuss this question. There are some pretty powerful things coming through the chat. Someone shared this thought that once the world industrialized, we stop appreciating the diversity of people because we see things as something that can be found in shops, but not as someone else's work. And that's when we began to believe that not relationships, but money is what matters, because money can buy whatever we want in life. And so this image, this image haunts me. I just think it's so absolutely creepy. How do you understand this? How do you understand this? You must first realize the prison of your mind before you can escape it. So take a moment and reflect on this in your groups as well. Is it possible that our stories can imprison us as individuals or as a culture? And in this case, I'm afraid that I personally feel the effects of our culture's story. The idea that economism colonizes our minds, my mind. Faster is better, more is better, domination is better, growth is better, control is better. And so this is the story of culture that I feel as though I am trying to become more aware of how I get caught up in it, sometimes without realizing it. How is it my prison when I don't even know that it is? How is it our culture that is leading us to this? Somebody said that that image reminds them about unlearning. And that's exactly, I agree. That's pretty powerful. And so in our culture today, these are 2020's economism's heroes. These are the top 10 richest people in the world. The world's billionaires is an annual ranking by documenting the net worth of the world's wealthiest billionaires, and it's compiled annually in March by Forbes magazine. And so these are the 2020, and you can see the red arrows where their net worth was decreased. And a lot of that has to do with the pandemic this year. Or in Jeff Bezos' case, it was because of the amount that he gave to his divorcee. And so, what an astounding amount of money that these people have gathered. So, to give you an idea, how much is $1 billion? $1 billion. If you could save $100 a day, if you could save $100 a day, it would take you 10 million days to save $1 billion. So, keeping in mind all of these people are 54 billion and more. 10 million days at $100 a piece. Well, that happens to be 27,387 years at $100 a day. $1 billion is inconceivable to me, the amount of money. The world's billionaires are worth $8 trillion. There are over 2,000 billionaires on this planet. And they, between them, the world's billionaires have more wealth between them, those 2,000 people, than a combined 4.6 billion people on this planet, according to a study that was put out this year. 2,000 people that are financially worth the same as another 4.8 billion people. That's astounding. And so these are economism's heroes, so to speak. And yet, are they really? It is fateful and ironic how the lie we need in order to live dooms us to a life that is never really ours. I'm going to show you the teaser of a video. I'm just going to show you the beginning. And then if you choose to go back to watch the rest of it, that's up to you. But I'll show you this, whoops. Sorry, hold on just a minute. Something isn't working. I guess maybe I'm not going to show this to you. Let's see. Huh. Well then. It's not letting me share. Hey Pedro, can you see the video screen right now, or my PowerPoint?
It's cut in half. You could try stop sharing your screen and share again, maybe.
Okay. Thank you.
Nope, still cut in half.
Okay, thanks for letting me know. We'll just go back to this. I'll put the link to the video. It's called The Lie That We Live. And I'll put that into this week's Canvas so that you can see it. It's about 8 minutes long. So, all right. So the idea is that that we're struggling. A lot of our culture is struggling, and I'm not speaking about everybody, but a lot of people are in this place of where the story isn't working, where it's affecting our health and sleep and fear and worry, with stress and debt and bills payments. How will retirement work? Will I get to retire? And so there's a lot going on for us as part of this story. And yet, the cool thing, this is not the cool thing. These are
Oh, Jen,
struggles.
the Tommy just said the slides aren't up. I don't know if you went back to the slides.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. Thank you. And so, um, thanks for letting me know. So we are experiencing this separation from self, separation from each other, separation from others, separation from earth. And so what we're in is we're in a story of taking rather than giving, fear rather than love, and separation rather than connection. And yet it's a story. We get to choose our story. There are students who have seen this particular class or gotten to the end of BiSci and said that wasn't an environmental science class. And yet here it is, all spelled out. It's all connected. It's all related. How we are raised in and by our culture, how we see success, all of that relates to our environment because it's at the base of every single thing that we do. The environment is the source of everything, earth and nature, and yet it's the disconnect. And so how can we have an environmental science course without talking about this disconnect? How can we have an environmental science course that doesn't talk about economism and the story of now? And so before we do run out of time, I'm going to try one more time to share a story, share a video. We'll see if this one, I don't even know if I can. So, yep, I'm not going to, oh, wait. How about now? Can you see that now?
Still no.
Doesn't that just figure? Oh, and it's such a good one. I'll put the link to this in week 10 as well. I am so sorry. I don't know what's going on. So we'll just end with this because I think that this, can you see the slide now? Just, I better ask.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And so stories, they come and they go. And so this woman, Ursula Le Guin, said, it was an old story that was no longer true. Truth can go out of stories, you know. What was true becomes meaningless, even a lie, because the truth has gone into another story. And I need you to consider this deeply. I encourage you to consider, I need it because I want to believe desperately that we are on the edge, on the verge of a new story. And so please make sure that you watch this second video. It's on a website called Let It Ripple, and it just came out. And I think that it's really pertinent to this idea of the power of creating a new story. Has the power gone out of the economism story, particularly now in this quarantine, in this COVID time? What have we learned that could lead us to a new story? I want to thank you for your patience today. You just never know. I just never know what's going to work and what isn't. And so I thank you very much for your attention. please watch the video, particularly this one that I was going to end with, the 2-minute video. The 8-minute one is your choice. You'll find them in Canvas. Thank you, and I hope that you have a beautiful day.